Tom Grimes, Corona Marketing Specials.
Yeah.
Totally. Facebook.
Have you tried out Octane at all?
Just at like a C-Graph demo.
All right.
Kind of thing.
Are you going to C4D next week?
No.
Let's check. Here we got.
It's one of those things like, maybe you shouldn't. And then the
Stream.
week before, like,
Yes, all right.
I wish I just.
Yeah.
So welcome, everyone. There's someone at the door, if you wouldn't mind getting Jeremy. And if you're watching this online, thank you for joining us. But we'd rather see you in person. So come to the meeting. Tonight we're going to have Matt Milstead from Nexus Motion and BroGraph. And we're going to do a little talk about some face tracking and some other stuff in After Effects. So the first thing I'm going to do here is jump over to my desktop and pull up a movie that I rendered for you guys to see. Here should be it. Maybe it's not there. But this is what we're going to start with here. Go a little bit. This clip. I've got a little dingle on my face for tracking that I actually didn't really even need. And we're going to get to, here's a trick for you in After Effects. Oh, I went to June. So if you render something out and you forgot where you rendered it, you have no idea how to get to it because you were working on some project and it was living, 6 or 8 folder deep in a tree structure. You can twirl down here under Output Module, and there's where you rendered it to. If you click that, it'll open it up for you. So this is what we're going to be working with here. And that was designed up by Ethan. We'll be here a little bit, but thank you, Jeremy. Thank you. So let's go over to After Effects and just kind of get started here. Here is the clip with my face in it. And I think I trimmed the comp down to where it's just a tiny bit. So I think maybe we'll even trim it down a little bit more. I'll hit B to change my work area endpoint. And then new hotkey, Shift Command X, or maybe Shift Control X on Windows, will crop the comp. You used to have to right click and do trim comp to work area, but now we can trim comp with a hotkey. Shift Command X, like that. There we go. And I'm going to take my face and put it in a new comp. Let's just make new folders set up here, like this. And this guy, new pre-comps, like that. Okay. So in new pre-comps, I've got my face. I'm going to pre-comp it here. And we'll just call this one masked, like that. And I'm going to put a mask around my face, and then let After Effects do some magic. Like this. When I do a mask, and I'm on my layer here, the tracker window shows up. And I'm going to tell it this Trent face, like that. And it's going to say, let's see, I'm going to track mask here. So when I select the mask, it gives me the option of face tracking. So I can track position, with rotation, with scale, with skew, perspective. I can also do detailed features. We've done that in a previous meeting where we kind of masked something onto my face, a whole mask, which is kind of cool. This time we're going to do the outline only. Right there, I'm at the beginning of the comp, so I'll just hit track and it'll track forward. You could see kind of what it did was it set up right on that first frame what it thinks is the outline of my face, and then it's moving along here, and just because it got off course there a little bit, I don't even know if we need much more than that, but I can go here to my keyframes and just adjust those as needed. So like so. And I'm not only going to do just a couple of these because we don't need them. And then maybe I can just do an out right there. Instead of right clicking and doing this, I'll just do my hotkey again, Shift Command X. There we go. I'll close this because it has done what I wanted it to do. And now I have my face masked out. I think maybe I will squeeze in a little bit, just a tiny bit like that. And my masked face, I'm going to put in a new comp like this. This one's going to be tracking. Okay, so now I can go up to animation, track camera, and After Effects figures out what's going on and tracks my face. So why are we doing this? Well, in the last meeting, we spent probably 20 or 30 minutes trying to figure out how to get to doing something to my face. I wanted to track the shot and then use the tracking points to put something on my face. But when we were doing this, it would track the shot and not do my face very well, okay? So,
because your face was moving in relation to the background.
Right.
Okay.
Now, it should have, in my opinion, done what I wanted it to do, but it didn't. So what I ended up doing is getting just the masked face and tracking that. And what it ends up with is just a bunch of track points on my face, which is pretty cool, right? So I can come in here, target size, take the target size down a little bit so it's not killing us, and figure various places out on my face where I want to create my first null or solid. And I'll just control click or right click. And now my options are text in camera, solid in camera, null in camera, and so forth. I'm going to do solid in camera.
It's blocked.
I don't know, man. I'm trying. I really am. Okay, so now we've got the start of something good, as they say in High School Musical. And in our assets here, I have a Photoshop layer, or a Photoshop project that is this here. There's face, there's forehead, there's neck. Okay, and let's start off, because of where I put my my first solid there. It also gave me a camera because of where I put my first solid. It's locked pretty good onto my forehead. I'll go grab this burned forehead, and I'm going to option drag. Sorry, select the correct layer. I can either drag and hold Option down into here. You see the little plus sign down there, and I can replace that. Or I can select this and select what I want to replace it with, and do Option, Command, and the /, and it replaces like that. And then all I need to do is over here, adjust my anchor point a little bit. That looks a little big. I'm going to do Shift, Option, and minus. And that'll do.
Is it just stepping down the scale?
Doing the scale. I can also do Option and minus or plus on the number pad and get increments of 1. There's the scale right there, so you can see like that. And also do 10 increments of 10. And that's also rotation. So if I just do plus and minus, then I get rotation, or Shift, plus and minus, like that.
Are those new? Or is it,
I think it's been a little while. Yeah. I just didn't know it very well until recently. So now, we'll take a look and see. Kind of looks like third eye up there, but it looks pretty locked on to my face like that. And then we will do, come back over here to the track, get another null here, and maybe another solid like that. This is going to be face. So select my solid, my face, like that. Maybe a little off. So we'll go here, do Shift, Option, and minus, like that. And I'm just adjusting my anchor point to line it up there. So let's see. It's pretty good. The one thing maybe that we'll do this round is select the face, and then I'll create a mask with my rectangle tool here. And yeah, so I'll go like that. And then do subtract. So that's just the face. And then I'll duplicate and call this face forehead. Hit M to twirl in my mask and do add. Okay. So now what I've done is made it where I can just use this little part here and kind of rotate it around the front of my head a little bit. But I need to change my anchor point. And if I go in here with my anchor point tool, my pan behind tool, I want you to watch this area down here, see if you can see what's happening. So my anchor point is on 0, and my position is at minus 296.4. If I move this up to where I want to have that rotate like that, it changed my anchor point to 30.6 because it's not dragging in 2D space, it's dragging in 3D space. So what I want to do is keep it at 0. And in my opinion, I don't know, somebody else can tell me this, maybe I don't know if you hold Shift or whatever in that that layout, but if I open the layer here like that, I can zoom in and move my anchor point here, and I'm only moving it on X and Y, not in 3D space. Okay, so then just close this. Now it's in the right spot. I'll hit R for rotation. Just kind of angle it around like that. You can see there may be a gap here. Sometimes I'll get a gap, and the gap will be there in half res, but not in full res. Maybe it's there, maybe it's not. Go up a little bit like that. And can then even do M twice and expand the mask like that, just to make sure all the gaps are covered. This, here's maybe somebody's at the door. Jeremy, would you check the door, please? Okay. So now we're going to add my shot back in here, and we can do that with putting Trent face down there. And you can see that if we zoom in, there's a little bit of extra hanging off there. And if we were to use more of the shot and rotate kind of around the shot, then the burn would drift off of my face a little bit. Thank you, Jeremy.
Okay.
And so we don't want that necessarily. So I'm going to use this Trent masked as a matte. Okay. So notice these kind of angled points here. It is looking at the mask and not worrying about the bezier of the mask. I don't know why it's getting rid of the bezier, but it is. And the reason it is getting rid of the bezier is because of the camera tracker. If I delete the camera tracker, the smooth lines come back, and I can use, so there's my burn face there. I'll just put this above and do a track matte alpha like that. And then for, maybe I think that's all I need right there. So now when I rotate around, it looks like a little bit of goofiness on my chin. So all I need to do maybe is, let's pull this back on, and we can expand this with a simple choker. Like that. All right. Any concerns, any thoughts from anybody? Yes, I will get this treated. My treatment plan that I'm going to try first is just have a dog lick it. If that, you think that'll?
Probably not.
Okay. So to get there, we pre-comp my shot. And do you guys use the what is this called? Workflow in After Effects? Okay. Sometimes. Because I can comp, sometimes I do pre-comp, and it gets ridiculous sometimes. So having this available is good for me. Also, this remembers where you've been. So in order to get to it, you do tab, and it'll open up a little workflow here. And then I can right and left arrow through all the places that these pre-comps and comps live. Okay. Now it remembers where I've gone. So if I come here to this last guy, and that's the final, I tab, and when I go back one, it remembers where I just came from. Okay. It remembers the path where I just came from. And then I can go to other places that this comp is if I want to, but it's just a great tool to navigate through your pre-comps instead of having to figure out where you are and where your pre-comps live up here and all that kind of stuff. So, okay. So now, Ethan, you want to see the final? Since you weren't here for the build. It's online, hopefully, so you'll get to see how it happened. There we go.
Awesome.
There's the door again. All right.
Oh, somebody's at the door?
Oh, Jeremy's going. Thank you, Jeremy.
Beat me to it.
Me a little light that comes up.
Yeah.
So how did you do the burn?
Ethan did the burn. You have some tips?
My tip is that I'm not sure how publishable that is because
You just got Google Photos?
I was like, burn, face, injury, accident.
I'm
You
sure.
had to go through a lot.
It was
trying to find something.
I'm sure you had to go through some therapy later too.
It was kind of nauseating,
I was gonna
actually.
say, I thought you painted that all by hand. I was like, man, you went through the rigors for Trent. Or spent 2 days.
Hi, Mary. Thanks for coming.
Hello. Hello. Excuse me.
When it's for photorealism, I like to paint with Photoshop, paint with the eraser.
Yeah.
Sometimes a really soft eraser.
Yeah.
Just to help it blend in.
So, anyway, there you go. There's that. If you missed this, Mary, apologize. You can get it on the recording later. Yeah, okay. All right. So, templates. I kind of misspoke when I said we were going to talk about templates. What I really meant was output templates. Also, render module templates. Okay.
Hey Trent, I'm sorry for the sounds I make. It's part of my OCD. I can't really help it, so I'm sorry.
I understand. No problem. So, let's say we're going to render this guy. Nobody? We're going to render this guy. All right, so I'll do shift. If I say, let's say this, then you all say what I said.
But
Yeah,
then
it used to be Command M, and then they changed
They
it.
changed it.
And I couldn't get used to it, and I kept
So you
on
stopped it.
minimizing my entire screen. So I now just go up to the bar,
right?
because I can't get the muscle
So
memory
it's
back.
shift command and /. That's our second / command today. The first one was option command /, and that is to replace footage in your film. And this one is shift command /. And then if you want to just jump over to your render queue, it's option command and the 0.
Hey, out of curiosity, is there a way to move keyframes with a keyboard shortcut?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's look at that real quick.
Yeah.
So here we go. We're going to twirl down opacity here and just put a keyframe in there. And if I hold option and right click, sorry, not right click, right arrow, left arrow, okay. I can also do shift option and it moves 10 frames, okay. I use this all day long.
Thanks.
Also,
so much.
if you have a, I'm gonna put a solid in here.
Would that be Alt arrow on a PC?
Probably,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So let's say I have a solid.
Yeah, I have a PC too.
Guys, you're not playing along. Let's say we have a solid.
We have
We-
some.
Yes, now we're going.
We're so solid.
We're cooking. We have a solid. All right. So this layer here has a start and an end here, and I want it to be somewhere else. So I can do option and page down and scoot it forward and backward, page up and page down, like that. And if I do shift option or alt on a Windows machine, I'll move it 10 frames. Okay. So to move a keyframe, I'll do option, left arrow, right arrow, or shift option, left arrow, right arrow, or option home. Not on a keyframe, it didn't work. But it will work on the layer. So I'll hit 1 on my number pad to select that layer up there. And I'll do option, page up and down. I can do shift option, page up and down for 10 frames. Like Carl said, I can do option home, and it goes to the home. The beginning of it goes to the home. Option end, where does it go?
And
Very good. Just like that. And if I do the left bracket, the endpoint will jump to where the marker is. If I do right bracket, out point jumps to where the marker is. Okay, we're good. One more of those is if I have it too long and I want to squeeze it in, just change where the out point is. Instead of moving the whole thing, I'll do option and right bracket. Okay, if I want to do the beginning, the end point, I'll do option and left bracket. Okay, all right. Now, we're going to look at render setting templates and output module templates. And in just a minute, my good friend Matt Milstead is going to jump over here and talk about Cinema 4D Lite in After Effects. Okay, so when you twirl down this here, a lot of times you may not even twirl it down, and After Effects will just render at current settings.
Man, who likes light anything?
Me, because it works. So what you want to make sure you do is make best settings your default, unless you have a reason to not, because the reason After Effects geniuses set up the new render audio on by default, if it exists, is because people kept forgetting to turn their audio on, right? So I'm setting myself up for success by setting up current settings to be my default. Let's take a look here at Edit, Templates, Render Settings. Okay, so this is where you change your defaults. And right now we have it to best settings. I can change it to what I want here. My frame default, I'm going to put that at best settings as well, because if I just export a frame that I want to use in Photoshop or bring back in, put somewhere, then I certainly want it to be the highest quality I can use. And then you have pre-renders and proxies and stills. I typically do a frame and not a still. Anybody use this? Oh, that's just proxy, still proxy. Okay. So you can also edit this here. It just brings up your render settings panel, and you can change things like field rendering, which hopefully you won't have to deal with. Motion blur on for checked layers only. You can do all layers, off for all layers or current settings. So just take a look at these. Yes, ma'am?
I'm not sure what's field rendering mean.
I'm so glad you're not. Oh boy. But please allow me a little bit of time to explain it. In the early days of television, you remember tube televisions?
Yes.
Okay. Those are the kind of televisions you put on if you didn't want your shoulders to get a suntan with a strap. You wanted to get sun on your shoulders, you put on a tube television. They would...
What'd you told them about?
Willis? So tube televisions had a cathode ray gun, and a cathode ray gun in the back would shoot a laser beam at the front of the television, the glass, and it would light up the pixels, light up the screen, okay? But it didn't do it all at once. It didn't just go layer of pixels. It started, I think, either at the bottom or at the top.
Middle of the top.
Middle of the top, and it goes and writes down every 60th of a second. Okay? And you get what amounts to, and that's a field. A 60th of a second is a field, and you get line 1, line 3, line 5, line 7, line 9, all the way down, and then it goes back to the top, like Luke says. It starts in the middle, and it goes and writes all the even lines. Okay?
Are you talking like progression stuff? Is that the same
It's the
thing?
difference between progressive and field.
Interlacing,
Interlacing, yeah.
Is that
Progressive
the
and
same thing or
interlacing,
no?
yeah. Field rendering is interlacing.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, got it.
You're all good.
Got it.
In your head, everything's good. So
It's getting a bit Tron up in here.
it is.
I get the interlace, so interlace is the
Interlacing is
field.
field rendering.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we don't have to explain anymore.
No.
No, sir.
All right. Thank you for cutting me off, because I'm sure it was riveting to listen to me talk about that. Anyway, this is where you set your defaults under render setting templates. This is where you set your defaults. So just while we're here, I'll show you this multi-machine settings, and we'll open it up. And this should be on here for me if I'm going to do multi-machine rendering.
Best settings.
Say again?
It says you're editing best settings.
Best settings. Okay. I don't want to do that. I want to go to multi-machine like that. I'll change this default back to best. Okay. Thank you, Luke. So for multi-machine rendering, you'll see this is already checked. There is a way that you can have After Effects on a couple of machines, or you can have an AE render node set up. If you own After Effects, you can install the AE render node on other computers and use that background rendering to render After Effects files. So if you have a couple of computers laying around and you have all the fonts and plugins and all that cross and network connectivity across your computers, then you can do a render farm. All right. So multi-machine rendering is what that is. And you would do skip existing files, because what happens is After Effects will load up the project and render out an image sequence. You tell it to render an image sequence, and it'll render out an image sequence for frame 0 will go start rendering. And then computer B will start rendering, and it'll look and it'll see that frame 0 is already in progress, already exists. It'll skip it, this skip existing files, and start on frame 1. And then maybe another computer starts rendering. It sees that 0 and 1 are already in progress, so it goes to number 2. And anytime it finishes a frame, it looks and says, what all has been rendered? Okay, I'll skip all those and go to the next one. And you can render a lot of stuff fairly quickly if you're doing that. All right. So now we're looking at output module. And the way to get to that is either, click here and change your settings, or go here, change your settings, or make template, okay? So in order to make a template, let's make one for ProRes 444 with an alpha channel, okay? I don't think I have, I do have that. We'll just make another one. Looks like I have an untitled here. So we'll overwrite this one. We'll just call this AE group 444
1 moment.
alpha.
BR break.
Okay. All right. So we have this set up here. We're going to edit. We're going to pick, we have QuickTime. Format, we'll go pick the ProRes 444 codec, 4444, and then we'll pick not just RGB or alpha. We have the option to do RGB plus alpha, and we can do resize. So I have a setting that'll do it'll crop to SD. If I have a 1920 by 1080, I can just render that, but it'll crop to SD size and give me 1440 by 1080. Without having to re-render, and that's what this buys you a lot of times. So you can resize and crop, and then there's your audio settings.
It doesn't do trillions of colors anymore, does it?
There you go, trillions of colors.
Nice.
Why would I want trillions if I can have millions? So there we have that set up, and then if we want to make that our default, we would go AE group 444 alpha, like that. It should be a 4 4s like that.
And how big would that file be compared to the QuickTime?
It's got all the 4s. So you have all the what is it? Luminance, chroma, and contrast. Maybe that's all of it.
2 values of chroma.
Yeah, and then the alpha channel. So your not only are you bumping up the last two of those, you're also adding an alpha channel to it. And you, I don't know, maybe you're increasing the size by 2/3 or 1/3, something like that. Experiment, see if you need it. A lot of times I'll do 444 with an alpha channel.
I don't know if I did something wrong because I've seen it come out
really big.
Way bigger.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Do you still have to buy ProRes outright, like a separate RSA?
It's included.
Yeah, it's included. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But if you're on a PC, you can't use ProRes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So our friend Matt renders out. He does everything on a Windows machine and then renders ProRes on his Mac.
That's all a Mac is good for.
If you
no, can't you get? I thought you can get like a ProRes converter or something.
There was a program called Windows ProRes that they were developing, and then Apple shut them down, and they don't sell it anymore.
I only asked. We were looking at getting some drone cameras, and if we wanted the ProRes camera, we had to buy the software that could actually encode it for Windows.
So you can download FFmpeg.
Okay.
Now, you have a Windows machine?
Yeah.
I don't know how to work it on Windows, but if you have access to a terminal, and you can use Homebrew or something simple like that, and install FFmpeg. If you want to talk more about it, I have some information. Chad Gilmore will have some information too.
Okay.
And you can use that to convert whatever format you have to whatever other format.
Okay.
So ProRes, all flavors of ProRes, H.264, HVEC, AVI, and whatever. There's even like Targa and really old format. There's like a Doom 3 codec or some really crazy thing that they have.
I have a question.
Hey. What's Doom?
No. So Targa is considered an old format. That's what I was taught. So like, what's
that's good. That's good.
Standard?
Targa is a very uncompressed, I guess, graphics.
It's lossless
image format. Yeah. So if that's what you want to use, that's great. It's been around a long time. That's the only reason I say it's an older format.
But it's still like okay as far as industry standards. Because if it isn't, then I'm not going to.
TIFF would be better.
Never have I ever had to use Target.
Yeah.
You must not have used the Video Toaster Flyer before.
Yeah.
I used to get old Amiga.
I used to work for a company, and that was like the standard of all the graphics people that output
everything was Target
sequences.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, more recently I've had difficulties where it doesn't open natively in the machine or whatever. So, but like the Adobe Creative Suite seems to handle them just fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I've actually been using TIFF sequences with you can preserve the alpha channel, but also I use the LZW compression option on the TIFF sequence, and it keeps the file size down.
Still looks good.
Yes,
impressive.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's still a fairly large file size, but
PNG looks good.
It does.
It also has an alpha channel.
I've found that the PNG sequences, for me, I'm on a PC. Adobe Premiere does not like them at all.
Right.
Yeah. It'll drop frames and stuff and cause render issues and stuff.
Wow. Okay,
So I don't
that's
know
good
if that's
knowledge.
an across the board thing or not.
That's good knowledge.
I was just
No,
Okay.
just having shoulder problem.
All right, so here we go. We have talked about our output module, and I want to make sure you guys know where to go to look at this. And we can also do up here, edit, templates, output module, and that's how you also get to that. I'm going to set my default back to ProRes 422. And what we're going to do now is look at the final step in the multi-machine sequence. So if you're going to render out your Targa files or your TIFF files, you can use multi-machine rendering, and this also works with the AE background renderer. Okay, to open up a terminal, put in your little information about your AE render, your project, and hit go, and After Effects will just go off rendering in the background while you still work in After Effects in the foreground, if you have a beefy enough machine. Sometimes I can even do 3 or 4 renders in the background while I'm also working in After Effects. Ethan has trouble. It depends on what you're rendering too. But just know that that exists. If you want to know more about it, we can talk about it. And then for your multi-machine, it's a good thing that After Effects already has it set up.
Yeah.
So it's Photoshop sequence. I wouldn't do a Photoshop sequence. I would go either PNG or TIFF, like that. And we'll do RGB plus alpha, like that.
If you go to the format options there, that's where
Do
the
that.
LZW compression is.
Okay.
Significant savings in size.
And still good quality?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. You don't have the checkbox for skip frames because that's in the render settings. So there we go. We hit OK. We've saved that. And then we hit OK. And if you're going to render with that setting, we'll just drop this back in here like this. And now we go multi-machine, multi-machine, and it gives me, it actually creates a folder, subfolder for me because I don't already have one set up. But then it gives me the numbers out here. And once I save, my render queue is set up. I can distribute to all the machines I want to render on and go. And it'll build my image sequence. Okay? All right. That's it for me. Now we're going to welcome, that's it for me. Like, there you go.
That's it for who? All I see is the yellow face, block face.
So now we're going to go with our good friend Matt Milstead from Nexus Motion. BroGraph.
Take the stage, Matty Man.
We're going to look over here real quick and go to the web. That's not the web I want. We'll do BroGraph.com. That's where you can find Matt. And back to the desktop. There we go. Okay, Matt, have a pen and a mouse for you.
Is there any problem if you keep the door open so it doesn't keep heating?
No, I'm going to turn the air down.
Okay. We can do that.
See, it's been a while since I've used a Wacom tablet.
There's a mouse right there.
Is it gonna get cooler in here?
Good.
I think it is.
Yes. Thank goodness.
There you go.
Oh, it only works on the Wacom.
It's going to be okay, Matt.
No, it's fine.
Oh, you got the Wacom mouse?
Nobody would use the mouse. With
All right. Can I plug in a USB? Is that all right?
Take the mouse and throw it out.
As long as it's got some alien.
Or because it's a Mac, is it going to blow up? I'm just kidding. I actually had to save it on my flash drive from my Mac because it wouldn't load on my PC. Okay, so let me grab these graphics. I'm going to use the Wacom tablet. Okay, so what we are going to be creating, okay, I am Matt Milstead. I run the website BroGraph.com along with my business partner Dave Koss. We also have a company, a motion design company here in Dallas called Nexus Motion. We also run the DFW C4D meetups as well. So, got a lot of hands in a lot of baskets. I'm a big proponent of Cinema 4D. I've been working in it for about 6 years, and with the release of Lite, I think it's really awesome being built in After Effects, but I don't think anyone uses it. And that's a big problem, I think, because I think if people realized how powerful Cinema 4D Lite is, they would use it all the time. So this is just something that I threw together really quick. You know, a lot of work that you'll have to do is logo work. So this is something I created pretty quickly, and Cinema 4D Lite actually works really well with After Effects. I did this tutorial twice. The first time it took me a whole lot of time because I did it the way I normally would in Cinema. And then I did it the way that you should do it in Cinema 4D Lite. And it worked so much better. So this is what we're going to build today. We're going to build a little Mavericks logo. So what we're going to do, we're going to start a new comp, go into our presets, and I am just going to choose the 1280 by 720. Let's do 30 frames a second. And then I'm going to throw this into my composition. Now, let me toggle my switch, do that, scale it up. Awesome, we're done, right? All right, so what we need to do is we need to get this into Cinema 4D Lite.
That's beautiful. Way to go.
Thanks.
Nailed it.
So what we're going to do is, because it's an Illustrator file, it's got all the outlines and everything. Normally with Cinema 4D, the standard version, you would take it into Illustrator. Actually, you can do this now with standard Cinema 4D. And I literally just discovered this today, and I was so happy, because now this is the way I'm going to do it in standard Cinema 4D. So you can bring in an Illustrator file. Normally you would need outlines, so you'd have to save it out as a version 8 and then merge it and then compress a whole bunch of stuff down and connect and delete. It's kind of a pain. That was the first way I did it, and it took me forever. So this way, I discovered if you right-click on the Illustrator file, you do convert to, or create shapes from vector layer. It creates a whole bunch of shapes. Let me turn this on. There you go. Now you can see all the individual shapes. Let's make it a 3D layer. And then he has this saved. So let's just go ahead and save that again. Oh yeah, Mac. Okay, so then we'll click on the Mavericks outline. And what we're going to do is we're going to export to a Cinema 4D exporter. And then so it'll ignore all the 2D ones, and it'll only bring up the 3D ones. So let's call this July 2017. July Mavericks. Don't judge me on my spelling. Okay, save that out. And then I don't think it's automatically going to open Cinema 4D Lite. Ooh, this is kind of a snappy machine. All right, so we're going to import.
What's a Mac?
Oh boy, where's our recents? Okay, whoops. $15,000. Okay, so we're going to import this Cinema 4D Lite project. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to throw this in here as well. And then, actually, we don't have to do that yet. Let's not do that yet. Just go ahead and click on it, and we're going to do Edit, Edit Original. And now it's going to bring up Cinema 4D Lite. Now, this is the coolest thing about this.
Yeah!
Check it out. Let it load, let it load, let it load. Come on. Come on, load.
Did you build this in Lite, or did you build it in
I built it in Lite.
Okay.
Check that out. It's already extruded.
Oh.
Okay, so, but let's get rid of this white one and just hit delete. Look at that.
Yeah.
Extreme extrusion.
So there is like a lot of really deep extrusions and stuff. So really what you have to go through is you have to find out what you want to be extruded, what you don't want to be extruded. You got to clean up a whole bunch of materials, but we can do that relatively quickly. But as far as just a, okay, and it makes an After Effects camera, which I don't like to use. Okay, have you guys worked in Cinema 4D Lite before? Anyone?
No.
Anyone opened
Very
it?
little.
Very little.
It's
That's
time.
what everyone says. It's like with Mocha for AE, you know? I opened it up, it seemed really confusing, so I shut it down and then just motion tracked everything myself in After Effects.
Yeah.
Get
Nobody
an
says
from Mary.
So with the big keyframe, or the big buttons to remember are 1, 2, and 3. 1 will move you left and right, 2 will zoom you in and out, and 3 will rotate around. So 1, 2, 3. Just remember, it's easy as 1, 2, 3. That was terrible, and I just came up with that.
You're holding the
Yes,
one
I'm
while
holding
you
it
drag.
while I'm clicking.
Okay.
So let's see. And then the other 3 that I would say remember, E, R, T. E, R, and T. So E is to move, R is for rotation, and T is for transform. So those are going to be your big ones. On this one, we're really going to only use E.
And transform is going to be scale.
Yeah, scale. So now that we've got this, over here is our object object manager or something, and you've got every single individual element, and you'll see there's splines. These splines here are basically your individual outlines. So every single one of your splines or outlines is put into what's called an extrude object. And so every single extrude object, you can see, here's the depth right here under movement. So if you wanted to, 99% of the time, you will only be moving it in the Z or Z axis.
For the international.
Yeah, for the international. So you can see as I change it, it does that, and you'll see what I do. If it's on the X, it'll skew it a bit, which no one really ever wants that.
So,
Yeah.
okay, Matt, I'm
Yes, sir.
sorry, I stepped out for a second.
No, you're fine.
Did you just bring this into Cinema 4D and it was already extruded?
Yeah.
Or did you
No,
already?
okay, so I'll show you what I did.
No, no, no.
No, it really
You
takes
kidding
3
me?
seconds. No, it's amazing. Yeah. So you take your Illustrator file. You know, I actually just got this logo off of Brands of the World. Just download it as a EPS, open it in Illustrator, saved it as an Illustrator file, brought it in, and then you right-click.
Does it
and
matter
you do,
what version of Illustrator?
No, this is the newest version.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not the normally the
Saving to 8?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So you just right-click, create shapes from vector layer. It creates all the shapes,
Okay.
and then you make it a 3D layer,
Okay.
and then where is it? File export to Maxon Cinema 4D exporter.
Oh,
And so then that creates a Cinema 4D file. You bring in the Cinema 4D file, and then you edit it
Get
there.
that.
And yeah, and you basically come out with this,
It's like
which is
cheating.
awesome. What?
It's like cheating.
It is cheating. It's amazing. It's not cheating. It's efficient.
Ingenuity.
Yeah, and it even picked up the colors.
Yeah, and it's even picked up with the colors, which is amazing. So now we've got all these. Let's go ahead and clean this up a bit because we've got all these extrude objects, and what we can do is we can throw them into null objects so that this whole thing is a little bit cleaner. Now I've done this once or twice, so I kind of know where all the layers are. You can see it highlights. This one is the star. So what we can do is we can create a null object, and I think if we hold down Command, no, I'm wrong. What I like to do is it Control? Create null? No, didn't do that either.
Try
Mac.
Command.
Well, okay, so what I do normally, I was trying to find the keyboard shortcut but if you do Alt-G, that'll throw it into a null object. So we'll just name this star, and then I believe these are your, let's see, Mavericks logos? Yeah,
So
all the letters.
that groups it like parenting.
Yes,
basically?
yeah. So you can see if I were to move this, which, here's one thing, all of our anchor points are weird right now. So, which I'll show you how to fix that. So if I was to move it, it would move it in the full group.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll call this Mavericks text. And we're just basically doing a bunch of cleanup. So, and then all these ones are the white outline. And we're going to want to group those all together here in a second, but I'm just going to call it this right now. Let's see, white backing. And then here, these are all the Dallas letters, I believe. Let's make sure that's the D. Yeah, it is. Okay. And
If you're wondering how he's doing that, he's looking at the texture.
yeah, I'm kind of eyeballing it by the texture.
It looks like magic. Like he's got this crazy memory.
Come on.
Memorize all these names and numbers.
Yeah.
I
So-
have read as far as the Mavericks. Is that 3D text twice? Is it not stroke? Wouldn't that be heavier? Or don't worry about it?
What do you mean?
Like it looks like
It looks like this is stroked.
no. It looks like there's two words that mean.
That's what it is.
It is.
It's a black set and a white set. That's the stroke.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
So I can show you, so I just turned off the white one, so you've just got the black one,
So there is.
versus if I turned off the Mavericks text, you would only see the white, which is weird. See how funky that looks? But we're going to clean that up. And this is the one thing that I had to figure out in Cinema 4D Lite. And I wish there's one functionality that I wish they would just add, and it's connect and delete. They didn't include it in here, but they included espresso. It's like, Just give me connect and delete, and let me bevel my corners,
And
and then I'll be happy.
Is
I'll show you espresso. Okay, so let me group all the gray stuff. This is horse face gray.
That's nice.
Yeah,
Horse
and then horse
That was my
face
first
white.
girlfriend.
Okay, and then let's see. Okay, so then this
So
is horse face.
Okay, come on,
white.
man. She's not even here to defend herself.
I'm just grouping these all together because I want to be able to. I want to fly them all in groups and stuff. So it's so much easier to do that than individually.
Right.
Let's see, blue, and then this is the shield circle, and then this one is going to be the Mavericks blue, and then this is the shield. So now that we got that,
If you guys haven't learned how to type without looking at the keyboard, you need to start now.
okay, so now the biggest problem that you guys saw earlier is that our anchor points are way off. So what we're gonna do, and you see under everything we have a spline. Now what we can do is we can actually search and type in spline, and that brings up every single one of our splines. So every single one of our splines is a child of an extrude object, and that's going to help us out. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to Mesh, Access Center, and then Center Access To, and that's going to put it's going to take basically the center point of everything and put it in there. Now you can do Mesh, Access Center, Center Parent To, so it'll center the parent to that as well. So once we come out of the spline, and we go to one of our extrudes, boom, it's now there.
Oh, that's great. So now your rotations are on in case you want to do that.
Mhm.
Okay, that's great.
So then all we need to do is just change this anchor point on our main thing. And if you come over here to your enable axis, you can just move it yourself and get it lined up about to where you want it. And then turn it off, because otherwise weird things are going to happen.
Is there any way to copy the?
And then I'm going to zero it out. Copy from like one of the other ones. Yeah, you could like say for example if we wanted the. Oh yeah. So I'll show you exactly. So say we wanted this to be it. We could actually access center parent to, and then it does that, and then we just access center parent to again. Center parent to, and you see here it's now at that point. So okay, now what else? I'm actually going to I think I can do this. Let me see if there's another way to do this. Oh, where's the one that we just did? White. Okay. Let's see. Let me turn on my axis. Let me see if I can do this. Just bear with me. Do. If I do 0, 0, 0, that did not work. Let's try here. All right, there you go. So now all of them are at 0, 0, 0. All I did was go into my access mode, highlighted whatever I wanted, and then came down here and changed it all to 0, 0, 0. So now all of them are at 0, 0, 0. Awesome. Okay, so now that we've got that, let's start. Let's make some of our extrusions a little bit different. Most of this is pretty good, but you can see the Mavericks part is a little too thick for my taste. The star and the Dallas part is a little too thick. So let's go into Dallas, and let's make these a little less thick. Let's go to like 2 inches. And then we're going to take this whole Dallas area, and we're going to bring it back in the Z space. And then let's make this white backing. Here's what I'm going to show you how to do. And this is the workaround for the standard version, and it sucks. I'll tell you what. So we want to join all of these white splines, extruded splines together. What we're going to need to do is we're going to need to merge them all together. And normally in Cinema 4D, you select all your splines, and then you'd come up to like Objects, Connect, and Delete. But there is no connect and delete right here. I don't know why they got rid of it. It's dumb because making logos is like one of the big things you start out doing in Cinema 4D. So what you have to do is you have to go and make a spline mask. And it's dumb because normally with bools, you can group two things together and then bool one group from the second group. And so you can't just group a whole bunch of splines together and throw them in a spline mask. It's a really convoluted way. What you have to do is, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We have to make 15 or 13 spline masks, and we have to make them children of each individual parent. So you're going to make this super crazy tree, right? So I'm holding down the Command key, and I'm basically copying it and making it a child. So you'll see what we do. I know, it's awful, it's so bad, but if you're working in Cinema 4D Lite, like this is an easy workaround. So I'm just going to go ahead and, so what you're doing in the spline mask is it's doing A union B. So you are creating a union between the first one and the second one. So then we're just going to keep on going and make them children. So you're combining one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and it's really stupid. I wish they would just give us connect and delete. So, as you can see. But the fact that we can, like, for the longest time, I stayed away from Lite because this was the one thing that I needed. I'm like, I need to create a logo for someone who does not have Cinema 4D, like for a client or something, who doesn't have Cinema, or the full version of Cinema 4D, but I'm handing over the project to them. I want to be able to use this, and because I didn't have Connect and Delete, I couldn't ever do anything with logos. Well, once I discovered the spline mask tool and how to do this, so we've got all these things basically connecting everything. You go up to your first spline and you hit C, and that creates one big spline. And now we can extrude this one spline, and we've got the whole thing right there. Now, here's the funky part, at least with this that I noticed. Let's go ahead and clear out the Mavericks text. And I'm just clicking on these little buttons right here. The top one means show in editor, and the bottom one means show in renderer. So green means go, as they say on Paw Patrol. Green means go, red means stop, and gray just means it's there. So let's turn off this Mavericks text, and you'll see what's happening with our extrude. See how it's super funky and really gross? Well, let's go into our front-facing mode. As you can see here, I just clicked on the little corner thing, and it brings up my top, my right, and my front. And then I'm going to delete all these points. So I'm going to go into my selection, and I'm going to do a polygon, a polygon selection. What is it called? Polygon selection. It should be linear selection. Anyway, and then on the, I'm going to call it a linear selection. A linear selection.
You're drawing polygons to select.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I'm going to unclick this, only select visible elements.
Apologist, I guess.
And then I'm going to go through here, and I am going to. I'm going to.
You're being mean.
That's a really big n-gon.
It's a polygon.
So, and then I'm going to go through here, and I'm just going to delete all these little points.
Polly's gone.
And then, let's see, right-click, there we go. And then I'm going to delete these so that we get a little bit prettier geometry, and we have one big, thick, piece together. And right-click and delete. Now, one thing you'll notice, it still looks kind of funky. So what we have to do is I'm going to, oh boy. I'm going to select all my points by just doing Command A. And you see some of them are actually like off the Z-axis a little bit, you know? So what we can do is I can hit T for transform, and I can just scale those on the Z-axis to where they're all at 0. And now you don't get any of that funkiness. Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Great tip.
Thanks. I know. Anytime you're trying to like line up, anytime you're trying to line up points and stuff, you know, I always use the transform and just transform them either on the Y or the Z or the X.
So you could have had, when you started, taken this Illustrator file and merged all your paths and cleaned it up there.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have had this.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So, but this is just taking it straight from Illustrator and, you know, basically doing your thing. So, all right, now we've got the Mavericks text, and we're gonna get our extrudes looking right. This extrude is actually a little bit better now. And then let's do our Mavericks text, and we're gonna make this a little bit less. Okay, and we'll bring those back. Oh, see, we're getting the same type of thing here, where it's just a little bit off. So we can go through all of these individual ones and select all the individual points. Go into point mode, Command A, and then we can just do that. And then unfortunately it doesn't give you the option to do them all at the same time, so you just gotta get them kind of close. You can see the percentage up there. So that's good enough for that's good enough for government work.
Can you see the percent? Can you set the percentage?
You cannot. Not when you're doing a whole bunch of groups. But if you were to merge them all together like we did with this spline with the white backing, you can do that. But with this, with the text, we want to keep them all their own individual elements, and I'll show you why. Because we're going to fly in all of those. We're going to use the MoGraph tools in order to do that. So let's just make this star a little bit thinner, maybe a little bit thicker. Let's split the difference there. And then the white one, let's do this. Let's do 3. Oh, star. Okay, so now notice we lost our whites on the white backing. I think the rest of that looks pretty good. Now let's work.
There's no reasoning with these letters. They're so thick.
So we saved that, and now we've got all of our materials down here, and it's a lot of materials. So if you were to go through and individually do each one, it would take you a really long time. So it's better sometimes just to start fresh. Actually, let's just start with one of the other ones. So we've got this black material, and what we're going to do is we're going to select all of our black materials, and here's what's cool. So with each material, it creates a tag. You know, you've got tags within Cinema 4D, so that's where the material is on. So what we do is we selected all the black ones, and we go Function, Select Texture Tags or objects for each of these ones we have selected, and then let's just replace all the materials with that one. And then if you do Function, Remove Unused Materials, now it's all one black material. And we can do the same thing with the white ones as well. So let's do white, 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 Function, Select Texture Tabs, and we'll drag this one over to the material. Function, Remove Unused Materials, same thing. We'll select all these gray ones. Function, Select Texture Tags, Material, there we go. Remove Unused Materials, and then we've just got, and we can just Function, Select Texture Tag, boom, Remove Unused. Now we have 4 materials, much easier to work with. Thank you. So we've got our logo. What we're going to need in our logo is just a few extra things. I'm going to move it up above the plane. The horizon, I guess, and I'm going to create a floor. And what a floor does is it creates an infinite floor. So if I just did a real quick render, you would see it goes off all the way into the horizon. But you only see it here. So I wanted to just keep it here. So where do we go next? Let's mess with our materials. Inside each of your materials, you've got color, luminance, reflectance, normals, glow, diffusion, transparency, environment, blah, 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 blah. Cinema 4D, for those who have worked in 3ds Max, it's very different on the reflection and stuff. They do it a different way. So even if you're working in standard Cinema 4D and you're working in like V-Ray or Octane, they call everything something different. They call it all diffuse and specular. This one calls it color and reflectance, which is fine. So
my program is Blender.
Yeah, Blender's great, and it's free.
Yes.
So we're gonna clear out this default specular because it just looks goofy, and we're going to add it like a GGX. And so you can see what it looks like here. It's given it 100% mirror. So we're going to bring down our layer color, which is basically, think of it like a float texture, where you're adding how much reflectance you want in there. So from 0 to 100%. And so with the blue, let's try to bring that down, and you can see right here that looks pretty good. We're not going to add any blur to the reflections because that will just take a while. And so I'm just going to add some quick reflections to it on the gray. I probably want it to be just a little bit more metallic-y looking. So I'm going to keep that there. With white, anytime you are doing reflection, you have to add a lot of percent in order to actually see the reflection, and it's actually the complete opposite with black. So if you add just a little bit, you'll see quite a bit. So look, we're at 14%. You see quite a bit there, and it's black isn't super forgiving on reflections.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
About Fresnel. On these flat textures, would you do any Fresnel, or would you just leave them like they are?
You can. You can go through and you can do some Fresnel if you want. But I believe, so you can come in here and you can change your Fresnel. Let's do, I don't remember which one is the good one. Let's see. I don't know. You can change it to, presets? Yeah, those are presets. Oh, okay. So say you wanted to do aluminum, that would select the Fresnel. If you wanted to do that, you could. For this demonstration, I wasn't doing any. Trying to keep the render time down as much as possible. So let's see. Okay, so we've got our reflections and stuff. Don't really have anything to reflect. We don't have any lights in the scene. Let's create some lights, a camera, and action, I guess. So up here, we've got our lights. We're going to create a couple of area lights and a spotlight. So I'm just going to create an area light that's going to light up the scene. I'm going to go slightly to the right, and I'm just going to create some quick 3-point lighting without a backlight. I'm not going to do a backlight. So here, and then I'm hitting E to move, and then W will change you into world mode and object mode. So here we're using world mode, so it goes along the X, Y, Z axis. And then if I click it W again, it goes into object mode, so it uses its X, Y, and Z. So we'll do that, and then I'm going to create one more spotlight. I'm going to bring that down and bring that straight up so that we get this cool little spotlight here. And I'm going to bring out the cone, maybe bring it up a little bit. All right, so there we go. Now we've got some lights, but it doesn't, so we've got some brightness in our project, but we have no shadows. So in each individual light, you have the ability to do shadows. On here, I'm going to do, let's see, you've got soft, which will create a soft shadow, but it's also a little hard looking. Let me see if we can see it on the floor. Okay, so you see those shadows coming off to the left. They're much softer than the hard shadows, and you can clean them up by increasing the, I guess, the resolution in a way. For the best, in my opinion, I think area shadows look the best, but it will significantly increase your render time. So for this one, we're actually just going to use the soft, just because I want to be able to render this out while you guys are sitting here. And then I'm not going to do any shadow on this light right here. So let's see what this looks like just really quick with some shadows and stuff. It's a little even because, and I need to throw this texture onto our white backing. There we go. Because both of these are set at 100%. So you're giving 100% on one side, 100% on the other. That's not too great. You're going to create some super even lighting. So on our left one, let's change the intensity down to like 75. And then our top one, let's change this to like 125. So we get like a lot more of a brighter spot. And we'll render. So we're not getting a lot of shadows, which is a shame. So that probably means that we need some more distance between them. So let's bring out this horse face black a little bit, and we lost the horse face white. Let's bring that, and then let's see how that looks. Oh yeah, I haven't created a camera Yeah, our shadows are on. Yeah, you see a little bit. You would get some better ones with, let's see what happens when we throw them on hard shadows. Ray traced hard. Yeah, now you see them. See, they're pretty hard. That's why I don't like that. I like the area one. Let's see what the area looks like, just for giggles. Yeah, you can see some soft shadows right there. That looks pretty good. Okay, but for our purposes, we're going to use the soft ones. So let's create a camera real quick. So just with the camera button right here, and then that creates a camera. If you come into this little area right here, you are now controlling what the camera sees. So if you go out, you see the camera right here. Then if you want to go back into your camera, just click on it right there. Then I'm going to create a new material. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. For the floor. I just double-clicked here, down at the bottom, to create a new material. And then in my color, I'm going to load an image. Let's go down to my flash drive, graphics, logo. Oh no, don't tell me oh yeah, it's in my textures. Text. Wood flooring. I just got this one right off of, what did I do? Polygon, that's what it was. And then here, we're gonna actually rotate our floor because we want it going along with us. And I'm holding down Shift so it goes in 10 increments. And then let's change the size. So I click on my texture tag, and I can change this to like, whoop. Let's do like 500 by 500. So you see it brought them out quite a bit. Let's do like 350 by 350. And now you see when we render, let's do a quick render. You can see those shadows and you see the spotlight, and that's pretty cool. So now let's get a sky, something to reflect. So what we're going to do is we're going to do go up here to our environments and go sky, and then we're going to create a new texture by double clicking. Oh, you know what? On our reflectance, we need to add some reflectance in the floor. What are we, crazy? We want some reflection. Let's see, bring down our layer color. We want super reflectance. Sorry. Now we're going to create a sky, and we need something to reflect. So when you're doing a sky, you don't want to do a color, and you don't want any reflectance. You want to do 100% luminance. So basically, it's kind of acting as a light or something, or even it's almost like you took a picture and it had no like brightness or 100% brightness to it. You know, so it was I don't know how to explain it exactly. Just think of it as like 100% luminance. So I'll go ahead and copy that in there, and you see that. Now I know from example with Studio 21, I need to edit this image really quick. Oh no, I don't. Okay, fantastic. I already edited it because they got this little red light that's in there that always messes up all my stuff. So we're gonna drag this into our sky, and then you'll see it in the background for right now, but some of it, you get a little bit of reflection up there, a little bit more, yeah, somewhere on the horizon, but not great. Here's something we can do, and this is important to do with all of your extrudes. Let's see, let's go ahead and select all of our extrudes. Oh boy. There we go, extrude, come on. And then we want to add some bevels to the extrudes, and that will help you get some curves, which will then reflect some of the some of everything. I've got something that I shouldn't have selected because it's not giving me all of it. Let's see, what do I have selected that I shouldn't have selected? Oh, there we go. Okay, now these are all my extrude. Let's do some caps. Caps is what creates the bevels, and I'm just going to do something real quick. I'm going to do a fillet cap on the front and the back. Now you see it looks awful. Let's do our radius at like 0.15, and we're going to add like 3 bevels, or 3 steps. So now, if we get real close, you can see it's got this bevel to it, and it kind of reflects that light. which is nice. Oh, I didn't put a keyframe where my camera was, or lock my camera. All right, so we will do, come on, max. There we go. Okay, so now let's see what happens when we render. We get a few highlights there around the circle. That looks kind of nice, especially around the grays. Those look pretty good. So it adds a little bit more depth to it. Now, when we added the sky, it totally blew out the floor. So what we can do here is we can actually create a compositing tag. Cinema 4D tags. If I go over, let me know. Okay.
You're good.
Okay. We can create this compositing tag, and we can say we want to exclude the floor. So we don't want any reflections from the floor. So then when you render, you'll see the floor doesn't have all that reflection on it. So it actually looks pretty good. All right. So that's pretty good on setting up the scene. Now let's go ahead and animate. So I'm going to group some of these together again.
Any way to make the sky look like real sky?
Yeah, you could actually add a background object, and then you'd create another texture and throw like that sky texture in the background, and then you'd have a sky, basically. Let's see. Actually, with this sky that we've got here, I don't want the sky to be seen on camera. So I'm going to go back into this compositing tag, and on the tag, I'm going to say seen by camera. I'm going to click that off. So now we should just see black in the background. So we got this great little fall off, and it goes off into black. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that looks incredible.
Yeah. So let's see. The star, need to adjust my anchor point on it. Then our Mavericks text, but I don't need to worry about that too much. The white backing, I'm just adjusting some of my anchor points. Dallas, won't really need to worry about that too much because I'm going to show you. Let's see, horse face, horse face, horse face, horse face. We'll call this whole thing horse face.
Dan's just thinking about my ex-girlfriend.
Poor girl. Yeah.
Okay, and then
I'm just kidding.
the shield, I'm going to group that together.
Shoot like that.
And I'm going to adjust that
Sure,
anchor point. So
no.
Mavericks blue, I'm going to put that with Mavericks. Stars itself, Mavericks text, white backing, and Mavericks blue. I'm going to make one. So I'm just going to call that Mavericks. I think I'm misspelling this every single time. Okay, so now we can select each of these individual elements and we can animate them. So let's start with I'm going to grab all of them, all the ones that I want to fly in. So shield, horse face, let's see, Mavericks, and star. Okay, so my Dallas and my Mavericks text, I want those to fly in individually. I don't want them to fly in with it, so I'll show you how I do that in a second. But these big ones, these big groups, I want them to fly in on their own. So we've got our little timeline down here. If you want a big timeline like you're used to in After Effects, you can just go to Window Timeline, and you got a big one right there. But I like to just work down here. It's easy enough. So I've got these 4 selected, and I'm going to create a keyframe, and that will record basically its position, rotation, and scale. Yes, thank you. And then we're going to go to, let's go to 30, and then we'll create another keyframe there. I like to do that instead of going to 30, creating the keyframe, then going back. I don't know, it's just safe for some reason. But now I'm going to animate it. So this shield, I want it to... dang it, I didn't set my keyframe again. All right.
For your camera.
Yeah, for my camera. Okay, let's set a keyframe for my camera, just so I can go back to it. Okay, so now I'm going to step out of my camera, and so that I can see it, and I'm going to move my star, my Mavericks, my horse face, my shield to where I want them. Oh no, I'm on anchor point mode. Let's turn that off. And then we'll do this, and then select keyframes, all right? And we want each one coming from a different side and a little bit rotated. So star we can leave there. Mavericks, let's have this rotate this way. No, let's rotate this way. And let's move it over. Okay. And then horse face is going to come from that way as well. Like that. keyframe. Shield is going to come from this side. And here you can see I'm grabbing this, what moves it on the Z and X axis. So now you see we've got these keyframes set up, so then when they come together, that's pretty cool. But they intersect, and we don't really want that. So we want to offset some of these keyframes. So we want the shield first, and then let's go with the Mavericks down here. What we're going to do is we're going to highlight these keyframes just by dragging slightly below, and we're going to drag this whole little selection about 5 seconds. So yeah, that'll connect. And then we need to do the same thing with our horse face.
Will they always move in a straight line, or is there a way to make them move on?
You can move, you would have to, you can, let's see. So you can see all these individual points. What you can do, I believe, let's see, right click, no. Okay, so you could create another keyframe here, say for example, and then it would create a Bezier curve, and then you could adjust that Bezier curve, I believe. Where is it? You get me all confused. I know there's a way to do it.
Do you have to edit it?
There it is. There's your curve. No, that's not it either. Come on. There's a way to do it. I just don't know off the top of my head right now.
Okay.
Okay, anyway. But you could create another point if you wanted to. Oh, I gotta get rid of that other point. There we go. Boom, boom. Alright, cool. So we've got all three of them. Let me go back to my camera. I'll show you what it looks like. So, boom, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And now let's get our Mavericks and our star animated.
It's really good. If I was to do an animation like that, I would do it backwards. So I can, because when it's...
You would want it to go like this?
No.
Oh.
If I'm trying to animate it,
Uh-huh.
like I would have the end look like that, and then...
Yeah, it does.
Did you do it that
See,
way?
I did it backwards. So that's me playing it right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So now let's do our Mavericks text and our Dallas text. So this is the selling point of Cinema 4D is its MoGraph tools, and this is why a lot of After Effects people move over to it, and it's awesome. When you register for Cinema 4D Lite, they give you they unlock 3 of these MoGraph tools. So in MoGraph, if we go to Fracture, basically everything that we throw under a Fracture object becomes a MoGraph object that we can then use these effectors on. So let's throw the other ones into a Fracture object, and I'll show you just kind of example of what it does. So we've got these MoGraph objects of the Mavericks, right? And then say we were to throw a random effector on there, it would randomly, along the X, Y, and Z of whatever our perimeter of that is, would randomly place them somewhere. And so you could even change your seed to find something that you like, which is pretty cool. Say you didn't want the position, you actually wanted them to randomly scale, like that's pretty cool. Or say you wanted them to rotate randomly 25 degrees or something. You can create this really cool little effect there, and then you could change like your fall off to just be normal. So kind of animate into place, right? Or you can use, that's an infinite shape. You could use a linear shape, which is what we're gonna do here in a second. And you're creating kind of this, let me hide the floor so you can see it a little bit better. We're creating this linear move. And so as I move left and right, you see it goes from random to normal, which is pretty cool. So what we're gonna do, yeah, I know, right? You got a question?
No, not that I can put words to.
So in this fracture, what we're going to do is we're going to create an effector, and we're going to use a plane effector. And a plane effector doesn't do randomly, it just does only by the parameters that you set. So you can see in this fracture object and the effectors, we've got this plane effector. So we're going to set our fall off to linear like we had on the other one. And we're going to rotate this, so you see now when we move it, it moves into place.
That's all working like that because you had you left those objects separate?
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
Okay.
So
You
I
left
think
it-
on our fracture, I need to change this to explode segments and connect. Maybe it could be straight. I think it's straight. Yeah. Whoops. Oh boy. Don't want to do that. Plane. So you can see, then it'll all move into place. But we don't want it to go just on the y-axis or the YED axis. You know.
Yeah.
Okay. So we want it to go on the z-axis. Let me go all the way. The z-axis
and the zozo axis.
So we want to do that, and then we want it to be, like, say, right there. So now, when we fly it in, they all fly in, right? So, but we want it also to be, we want it to be a little bit cooler. So let's change our rotations on our, so HPB, heading, pitch, bank. Someone's going to ask you that one day, and you're going to be like, I don't know. That's all right. Most of us don't, actually.
If you say, I don't know, then you need to stop coming to these meetings, because he just told you.
Heading, pitch, and bank. I didn't know that for probably the first 5 years of using Cinema 4D. So now we've got this plane effector. You can see we're also doing the rotation as well. Now let's extend this plane effector so there's a bit more fall off. Let's see. We want 100% fall off, and let's change our scale. I can't remember which one it is. It's the Z. There we go. So that it all comes in kind of like that. Wow, that's pretty fun. Cool. So then we'll create a keyframe with it, and then say maybe like on 24. We'll keyframe this plane effector. We'll go to like 54. So you get 1 second. So now you'll see when we hit play, boom, they all kind of come in. And we're going to do that exact same thing with the Dallas as well. So we can copy the same effector in there, and then you'll see it'll do the exact same thing, like that. But it copies the exact parameters. We don't really want that on this one. We want it to be a little bit more, or a little bit less on the YED, you know, the Y. Oh, never mind. Okay. I'm just kidding. So let's see. Let's go to our plane effector, and let's bring this down on the Y. So there we go. And then we'll see that there. So now we've got them both coming in at the same time. And then all we need to do really is add just a simple camera movement. So we've got a keyframe there. Let's do a keyframe like there or something. And I'm going to turn back on my floor. I'm going to move forward in Z. And then I'm going to rotate like this. Whoa. Get a little canted angle. So it adds we've got some intersection there with the camera. So that kind of creates some neatness. We want to get rid of this intersection here. So what we can do is, let me step out of my camera. This is a shield, and we're just going to add a bit more rotation on it right there, and just add a keyframe. So now you can see when it goes by, it doesn't intersect, and we're going to do the same thing with horse face over here.
We gotta start playing that drinking game.
So it still intersects. Let's delete.
That's old horse face.
This one. Good old horse face, always intersecting. Okay.
That's why we broke up.
She kept on coming around.
Okay. Now let's see. That's probably pretty good.
Horseface was always lacking in horse sense.
So you can see. Yeah, that's pretty good. I love the way they fly by, you know, and they just kind of build on.
Yeah.
So that's basically it. Now,
something that is exciting about Cinema 4D is that you are defaulted to an ease on your curves.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they are.
After Effects, you can set After Effects to ease, right? But
now, with the plane effectors, though, let's find Dallas. They do not ease. So you'll notice they just kind of snap in hard. And in the full version, there's a better way to do it. But I think in here you can come into your effector and change this minimum to like -100, and I think it looks a little bit better, you know. But in the full version, they've got a thing called like, what is it? bounce or something like that. Or, I can't remember.
I know what you're saying.
Anyways,
EJ just did it.
it kind of like it'll give a little bit of bounce to it, you know, if you want, or it'll ease a little bit better. But so we've got this. Now let's save that. Then when we go back into After Effects, oh boy, I opened CC 2014. Okay. Then when you go back into After Effects, if you bring this down, you'll see you've got it all the way in there. And it's all ready to go. Now this is one thing. This is the crappiest part about Cineware and stuff. You've got this, and if you were to render this in standard Cinema 4D, it would probably take you about an hour. If you render this in After Effects, it's probably going to take you 2 hours, just because it's got to run After Effects in the background. So my suggestion is to actually, because it's creating a Cinema 4D file, you can use a render. You can use a render service. So I threw this exact animation to PixelPlow, which is a just a standard render farm, and 90 frames cost me 23 cents, and I was able to get it done in probably like 8 minutes, and that's on the lowest setting. So if they don't have a bunch of people using it, it's going to cost you next to nothing. You'll be able to render it out as a TIFF sequence, and then you'll be able to just keep working. So PixelPlow is awesome. I like them a lot when I'm doing Cinema 4D Lite stuff, especially. Now you can also set this up, and you can do it in your AE background renderer as well.
Yeah, you could do multi-machine like we were talking about. Render a
And
frame.
I have done that. You can set it up on 3 different, so it's almost like you're doing like a team render like you would in standard. So with this, just some quick other things. Say, for example, you were using RSMB, which we don't have on here. But you can see, no, it's okay. It's okay. I'll show you. So on here you see I added the motion blur, and then I also added some Video Copilot optical flares in order to make that, you know. So you can see the motion blur that it's got on here. If you wanted to do a motion blur pass or some sort of object buffer, which is basically just a white and black value, say you only want the Mavericks part, the text, to be white, and then everything else be black, so that you can use that as a Luma mat. In Cinema 4D Lite, basically you would just create a compositing tag and put an object buffer here. Then in your settings, you would go, you would do a multipass and add an object buffer, and then turn that on. Now when you save it, if you go back into After Effects, and you can do these with motion vector passes or ambient occlusion passes if you wanted to do that, then in here in your C4D, if you go to Final Draft version and click on the Cinema 4D multipass, you can select the individual multipass, and then that will render it out as, you'll have a whole separate layer that would just be as your individual buffers. So you can see right now, we've got a white and black. So if we wanted to adjust any individual elements of that, we could. Now, this is one thing that I have found in order to speed up your multipass, because if you're doing it full res, it's such a pain. And it will take you a while. So what I do is I save my regular project as it is, and then I save as, and I call this multipass. I'll save that. Now in my settings, I go into my options and I turn everything off except for my post effects. Subsurface scattering, turn everything off, and then save that out, because that means it's not trying to see reflections, it's not trying to see shadows, it's not trying to look for any of that stuff, it's just seeing it straight as it is. And then when you bring it into After Effects, the multipass one, it's going to be 1,000,000 times faster to actually see that stuff. So let me go back to this. I'm going to ignore my passes. I'm just going to set this as my full version, standard final, and then in my multipass, I'm going to set this as my object buffer, for example. And you'll see once the object buffer comes up, man, this is actually pretty snappy. I'm not going to complain about the Mac anymore. So you can now use that object buffer, for example, as like a Luma mat, Luma inverted mat, Luma mat.
I feel bad, I do the same thing.
Why is that? That's weird. Because I shouldn't see anything, right?
So do the
You have to choose what layer.
the checkerboard in the back. There.
Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah,
Yeah,
now
yeah.
you can see exactly. I was thinking it would be white for some reason. I don't know why. So now you can see just that individual element, and it renders pretty quickly in comparison to if you were using the full version, turning off all those options. So that is basically it. Another thing that you can do, say you wanted to add those optical flares, like the Video Copilot optical flares like I did in the other one.
There's also track code Lux
Mm-hmm.
has the ability to see lights in there.
Okay, yeah, that's right, and Shine as well. Shine will add, so in your Cinema 4D, you can actually extract all your lights and your camera data. So if you were to create like a 3D element in here, let's make like just a solid, and we'll make it 3D. So if you were to create like a 3D object, it would actually move in 3D space as well. Let me turn this off so you guys can see what it does, which is pretty cool. Now, say for example, this is another cool thing about Cinema 4D. Say you've got like a plane or something in here. Like say, just for example, you're doing like a TV or something. What's cool, you can come in here to tags and you can do an external compositing tag. And then you can set the anchor point to center, and you can set a solid. So that solid could be like exactly the same size on the X and Y. And then when you save it out, you can export that data and it will automatically create, let's see, this is my multipass one. Show you multipass.
Lulu Dallas multipass?
Yeah. Let's see, let me delete all this stuff.
What's with
Extract. You'll
it's
see.
not showing everything. It's just showing that one area. Why is it not showing the expansive floor?
It will once you render it. It
Okay.
will, yeah, because on this one we're set to software. So you've got 4 different software: standard draft, standard final, and OpenGL.
Okay.
OpenGL is if you want it to be like, or is it software? Software I think is much more snappy. It's a little bit faster, so you can kind of see, like say you're wanting to render out just a, like we call it a hardware pass, you know, so that the client can look at it. And you don't want to spend the hours in order, or don't want to spend the 23 cents in order to render it, you know. If I do standard final, you'll see once it loads. It's because I've got that multipass stuff set up. Anyway, ignore that. We do this. Standard final. Don't want my Luma. No trackpad. You'll see it'll go off into the infinite expanse. There you go. So it goes off forever. And then if I turn off my, there you go. So what it did earlier, it basically created a solid that's 200 by 300, and then if I rotate this 0, you'll see that's the exact same solid as in here, in the exact same position. So now when it moves in the exact same position as the solid moves in the exact same position, which is great. That external compositing tag is so awesome. So say you're creating a 3D scene and you've got like a big, you know, board up there or something like that, or you wanted to create something or motion track something in After Effects and then take the camera from After Effects using the Cinema 4D exporter. It'll take that camera data and then you can create stuff in Cinema 4D that maybe like pops off or something, you know, and then
you can also distribute things inside solids or nulls or whatever inside Cinema 4D, render with some object passes, maybe some depth, so you can, after you have your Cinema 4D render, you don't have to render it over and over and over again. You just bring it back into After Effects. You have your solids off in the correct spots that you can then replace with other things. Right?
all right.
The
See.
Cinema 4D lets you render EXRs?
Yeah. Now, see, the thing is with Cineware and with Cinema 4D Lite, unless you're rendering through now, say you send it to a cloud service, you can actually set it up to do EXRs or TIFFs or whatever. but if you're rendering it on your machine by itself, you have to render it through After Effects, which
you can set up depth passes.
Mhm.
So then pull
Right.
the depth pass out, so you can use that as.
I'll actually show you how to do that real quick, because this is pretty easy. So in our camera, on our details, we just need to set a depth of field rear map rear blur. So basically anything past this point will be blurry. And in our camera, we can actually set our point. So from here on, it will all start to be blurry. So now when I'm in my multipass, if I go and create a multipass depth and save it, and go back into After Effects, let me delete some of this junk. And then let's see. Let's do the Corbin Dallas multipass. Multipass, set multipass. We will set this as our depth matte. And then in here, let's throw our blur. What is it? Camera lens blur. Camera lens blur. And then we are going to use. Drop that down. This layer. Hopefully this works. There you go. Now you can see that's in focus, and you get kind of some of these rough edges here. What I did on the previous version, I saw that. So what I did was I did an object buffer of the floor, and I did an object buffer of just the shield by itself, and then cut the two out, added some additional pixels on the floor, and then used only that, only put a depth matte on that one. I didn't do any on the Mavericks shield. So,
Good, man.
Yeah. Any questions? Let's see if Twitter's got any questions. No questions on Twitter.
I'm curious if anybody was able to watch it live. I hope it worked.
Yeah, I mean, we were tweeting it out.
All right.
So hopefully, yeah. But the MoGraph stuff is awesome.
Yes.
It's absolutely killer. Oh, and
So
let
you
me
gotta show your.
Yeah, I'm gonna show off my plugin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the standard Cinema 4D, you've got more MoGraph stuff, and one of them that everyone loves, that I think became a staple, are these cloners. Yeah. So you've got a grid cloner, a linear cloner, radial cloner, object cloner. So in the grid cloner, let's create some shiny balls. And we'll drop this into our grid cloner, and then we've got a grid of clones right here. Okay, so now let's change some of the stuff. Let's do like 10, 10, and then we want 0 on the Z, right? So
I feel like you're playing to the crowd now with this whole thing.
hey, I got some. I have friends in New Zealand. I think
He
more
said
people
something
actually
that
use
sounds
Z
cool.
than they do Z. So, MoGraph effector. Let's throw a random effector on there, down in our effectors, and then you see it kind of like does it this way because that's the way we had to build the plugin. If we come over here and we change our random mode to noise, check this out. So we get this cool little like, moving stuff. And so then if we change our parameter to like more on the z-axis, or let's scale some stuff. Let's do a uniform scale of like 0.5. I would say rotation, but you wouldn't see it at all, right? Let's do this. Let's throw these two together, and then I will scale down the cube a bit. Ooh, I don't know what that is.
Awesome.
Now when I do the rotation, you can see. Check that out. That's pretty cool. So like you can create these cool little backgrounds and stuff. If you wanted to just keep it the way it is and not have it move, you can change your animation speed down to 0, which is pretty sweet. And then let's see, let's turn that off. And then you can use your effectors, your like plane effector as well. So actually, let's do this. Let's do our random effector, and we're going to turn our fall off into a linear one, just like we did earlier. And then let's make it really long, so you can see. Like say you knew like the beat of something, you can have it go, you know, and fall off, which is pretty cool. So let's change this back to let's change the animation speed back to 100. See, and then while I'm playing it, you know, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So on this one, you know, that's the grid cloner. We've also got the linear cloner, which is basically just a straight set of clones. You can set that and then change your Y, add additional ones, so on and so on. You know, then add your effectors there. I'll show you let's get rid of the random effector. Let me hit pause. Radial, which is basically just an array of them. And then object cloner, this one is cool. So say we create a spline. Let me go into my top mode and just do that. This is one thing you can do. Let's create some spheres, drop that here into our object cloner. And then we're going to do spline, and we're going to drop this spline into here. It will evenly distribute along the spline. Oh boy, what'd I do? This plugin works perfectly, I swear. There we go.
It's probably having an update.
Oh, no, I need to show you guys Espresso. Do we have enough time for that?
We only have 6 minutes.
All right, Espresso. All right, here we go. So, Espresso.
BroGraph.com for the plugin.
Yes. Okay, let me create a new null, and then let's go to tag. Let's make an Espresso tag. All right, so in our Espresso tag, we can throw anything in here, right?
Right.
Yes.
So, say for example, we've got, let's see, a sphere. All right, and you want the sphere's position to be in the exact same place as the cube's, we'll say the y-axis. We want it to be. So what we can do is we can go into our cube, and we can take our y-coordinate and drop it here, and then our sphere, we can take the y-coordinate, and then we can link the two together. And so now, no matter where we move the cube, it moves that as well, which is amazing! I created my entire plugin through Espresso. So, but that, yeah, then you've got tons of cool nodes. Let's see, like a math node. I use math all the time. I actually use trigonometry for the first time since college, creating one. So say we wanted, let's take the position, and we want to like multiply by 2, right? So now it will be double the amount of whatever that is.
Whoa.
I know, right? Let's see if there's a random on here. Random seed. Oh, that's not going to do anything. Oh, we can multiply. Can we go out? Let's do real. So random. It kind of vibrates.
Multiply it times something.
Yeah, multiply it by like
10.
200.
Square root of -1.
Square root. Oh no.
There you
go. So,
Just like that. Yeah.
but there's so many crazy things that you can do, like basically plugging in one to the other. So, or this is your greatest piece of Espresso that you only need to know. So here you can come down here. Let's go to our cube. Right click. Where is it? Expressions, set driver, over to sphere, set driven. So now it automatically creates some Espresso. Oh, that didn't work.
I love it.
I'm sorry.
All right, let's try this again.
You said driver twice.
Oh, I did? All right. Let's see. This is set driver, sphere, set driven. There we go. Now it created it. So now it does that. And if you come in here, you can see it basically did the exact same thing, only with a range mapper, which is dumb because you could have just done that.
So dumb. Espresso's so dumb.
So yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. Espresso is amazing.
All right. So Matt, you flew through that.
I know. I'm sorry.
You don't have to let this be the only time you're at the After Effects user group.
I know.
We'd love for you to come back in.
It really is espresso. It made you go fast.
Yeah.
So while you're scooting over, let's go over to BroGraph.com.
I saw your site. It's pretty good, I guess. Are you kidding? Your site's incredible.
Thanks, man.
All right, so we have BroGraph.com, and that's where you can get the plugin.
Or many other plugins.
Many other plugins and tutorials.
And podcasts.
Yes.
We do a weekly, like, 2-hour-long podcast. We've had a lot of good people on the show. We've had
Barton Damer.
Barton Damer was there.
EJ?
EJ Hassan-Frost, he's a consistent contributor. Him and us and him are actually working at SIGGRAPH, doing interviews at SIGGRAPH and stuff. We also did that at NAP, which was fun. We got to interview Andrew Kramer and Nick Campbell and stuff.
Yeah. And you guys talk about freelance things,
freelancing,
dealing with clients.
We nerd out a lot. Every now and then there's a poop joke thrown in. You know,
say no more.
Yeah. Oh man, sign me up.
You got to insert a horse face in there now.
Yeah, horse face.
I'm very sorry.
No. But yeah, that's BroGraph.
All right. Also, Dallas After Effects user group. If you're in the Dallas area, we'd love for you to continue to come. If you're not involved with the Facebook page, you will become involved with the Facebook page, Luke. I'll make sure of that. And we have a meeting every 4th Thursday of the month, except for November and December. Love for you to join us. And we'll continue talking about awesome After Effects stuff.
Or he was going to have you think a good night.
All right. You guys take care, and see you next time.